One of the most powerful effects in all of magic is taking a $1 bill and changing it into 100. And in this episode of Erudite Magic, I'm going to be sharing a resource where you can learn any possible version you would want to, which makes it a great resource for anyone just beginning, all the way to the seasoned performers who just want to learn the best version for their needs. This is John Lovick's Switch, Unfolding the $100 Bill Change. The author, John Lovick, is well known and well beloved by the magic book community. He left no stone unturned as he searched through history, if you will, to find all of the best methods for switching or changing a bill. I'm going to dive into exactly what this book offers, but let me give you an overview. It's a hardback book and it has over 330 pages. There are 60 different routines described with over 700 illustrations. The contributors read like a veritable who's who of magicians over the years. But before we get into some of the specifics about what you'll learn if you pick this book up, I guess the question for some of us would be, why even bother? As I alluded to at the beginning of the video, the basic trick is very simple. You borrow a dollar bill. Yes, it's borrowed. Your hands are shown completely empty, with no real funny moves. You fold the bill slowly. When you unfold the bill, it has miraculously changed into a 5, a 10, a 20, a 50, a 100, whatever you want. And again, your hands are completely empty. And when we talk about magic books here on Erudite Magic, most of the time we're discussing a traditional magic book where someone's giving you a lot of different types of tricks, but this is a very specialized type of book. It focuses in on one specific trick, the $100 bill change, and attacks it relentlessly with method after method for all kinds of situations. Now, the one that comes to most of our minds involves doing this close up, and obviously that is a great fit for this since it can be done just inches from the nose of your participant with nothing to see. But it would be a mistake to think that this is just for close-up magicians. Many of these routines will play for a much larger room. And with today's readily accessible technology, cameras, and projectors, this could play to basically the biggest arena out there. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the book and some of the contents, what you can expect to learn from it, but stick around because after that, I want to tell you something that I found that's more important than just the tricks in this book. Let's talk for a second about what types of things you'll learn in this book. Of course, I'm mentioning this bill change, but there's so much more to it than that. The first part of the book that deals with the tricks splits it up into versions that use a, a well-known gimmick that most of us have laying around. If you've ever seen anything related to the bill change, you know what I'm talking about. Then there are versions that use no gimmicks. Just a couple of bills, your hands, and some knowledge. Not everything is with money, although of course that is the vast majority of this. In addition to the switch that I referenced earlier, he's also going to teach you routines with a transposition of the bill where it ends up in some impossible location, or even Bill Malone's classic bill to lemon trick. There are also versions that do something different. They either use a mismade bill, which is basically a bill that's turned inside out. There are versions that use writing on the bill that changes or moves, holes that move around the bill, and even versions where the bill changes multiple times without ever having to go to your pockets or anywhere else. I should point out that he doesn't cover every possible variation of the bill switch. He asked for contributions, and there were a lot of generous magicians who gave him things that had already seen print or were marketed elsewhere, or sometimes even written up here for the first time. But there are a number of commercially released items that are not tipped in here, although he does have an appendix in the back that goes over a lot of commercially available items with some thoughts about its genesis or maybe his opinion or something about it so that you can at least see that there are other versions out there. I can pretty much guarantee that you will find a method that will work for you in this book. But the real secret sauce here isn't just the switch or these routines, of which there are plenty. There are also handling techniques for using that gimmick we talked about earlier. This is a graduate level course, although accessible for beginners, on how to handle this particular gimmick. It becomes invisible when you start to put into practice some of the techniques that they offer here. And in fact, there's a routine I do in my show that has nothing to do with switching a bill, but it still uses the same gimmick, and I found a holdout, one of several in this book that's going to be perfect for my needs. There are a lot of really nice touches, so even if you already have a routine that you're doing, I promise if you read through this, you're going to find some really cool handlings that completely free you up to show your hands empty both sides of the bill. I was especially impressed with a one-handed flip type move to show that there's nothing in your hand. Not only does he teach techniques and routines, which do give you a script and a rationale for why you should do this trick, but he also gives you some of the history. There's the history of how the switch came to be, how magicians found out, what popularized it, some of the key players. He even has an interview with them about the original magicians who discovered this at Vector's finger-flicking frolic all the way back in the 70s. But he doesn't just stop there. He also dips into some theory. Should you hand the bill out? Should you not? What are the pros and cons? As well as some of the history of paper money and how it's changed over the years, even the legalities within the United States. He discusses facts and some of the symbolism on the back of US bills, and it just makes for some very interesting reading as you're going along and learning the tricks. Now that we've talked a little bit about the book and the contents, I want to share with you that thing I told you about earlier about why this book is more important even than just the $100 bill change. But before I do that, let me tell you about the sponsor of this week's video, Don's Magic and Books. Don is a book lover, but he's not just a book lover, he also sells books to book lovers like us. That's right, he goes out and he finds magic books that magicians no longer need for one reason or another, and he makes sure that they can find a good home in your library. He does this by offering them on his website at absolutely fantastic prices with free shipping available. And I'm not simply talking about the book that just came out last week. I'm talking about books that are rare or out of print, but you can find them when you shop with Don. I'm going to drop a link down in the description below, so be sure to hit that up and check it out, because a lot of times he has just one or two of these rare or older books, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on something you've been looking for a while. So shop with Don's Magic and Books this week. The reason I think that a book like this is so important to a working magician's library is because sometimes a regular book, it's easy to lose track of what you've been reading. And if you're not taking good notes, you kind of lose the passion for a trick that you read 5 minutes ago now that you're reading a new trick. The thing that I like about a book like this and think that you should consider it is when you spend time in this book, you're going over and over one very specific magic effect. And you're seeing different ways to do it, ways that will light up your imagination and potentially help you to focus in on the way that you would want to perform this trick. And I feel like studying a book like this will help you to actually do the work to perform something like this. And this, if you learn it, my friend, is one of the most powerful magic effects that you could possibly perform. So why wouldn't you want to learn that and do it for your friends? After reading this book, I'm firmly convinced that every magician needs to know some type of bill change because it's almost like real magic. And because he has variations for every possible need and situation, it just makes it that much easier. There's very little to carry with you. And like Malini, if you have this with you, you're basically prepared to do a miracle on a moment's notice. The book is $50 at retail, but I can tell you that some of the touches that I saw, even for the gimmick idea without the bill switch, is worth the price to me. I did purchase this book with my own money many years ago, and I have been very, very happy with that investment. Now, if you really want to multiply your learning from a book like this, or really any of the other books that are in your library, then check out this video on how to do just that. As always, my friends, I appreciate you watching, and until next time, keep reading. Oh yeah, the thank you list here. These are the people who have supported my newsletter, which comes out once a week at the Erudite Magician level. If you want to check out more about it, there's a link down below.